Welcome back to another episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. It's your boy AJ. And today we have a special episode that if you would have told me 25 years ago when I was working in the dungeon in Wheaton, Maryland at a Body's Total Fitness, that I'll be sitting here having a conversation with, probably the most popular trainer out there right now when it comes to athletes, Mr. Myron Flowers, I would have said there's absolutely no way. First of all, me living to 42 and having kids and having conversations about it just sounds absolutely ridiculous. But look at this. Here we are now. I appreciate it. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on the podcast, man.
Nah, you welcome, man. I appreciate you, man. That's a long time. Hey, you came from valleys. Like that's the beginning. Like we were at the basement. People can't even visualize what that is. You know what I mean? There's like no video footage of where we were
Right.
and how it looked. Yeah.
That don't even exist. Bodies don't even exist no more. I tell people, I
Wow.
say, man, look, I was an 18-year-old freshman at Howard University. I had no idea what I was doing. They got me just talking to people. They're like, that's how I'm talking to people now.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's the
that's
guy I started.
that was my first gym, bro. Where I cut my teeth.
That was your first one too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely my first one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get you started the way we get everyone started. The first question: what does it mean to you to be a father?
I mean, shoot, means everything. I mean, when you say that, when you say, what do it mean to be a father? I mean, you don't know what it's going to be like to be a father until you are a father. So I think as you go through the experiences, I think it's fatherhood has stages too, right? So, what it's like to be a father when you first have children is almost a sense of amazement, right? Where you're looking at the baby and it's like, man, I made this. And, that's a stage, right? Damn, I can't believe I really brought this. I brought a person into this world. And then you have another stage of understanding that when they get to an age, I can remember back when I was their age, how I was able to self-observationally learn from my parents without them necessarily pulling me into a class per se, right? So, these were all things that I remember. So when I saw those things, when I remember those things, I just always remember that, I tried to, try the best. We all not perfect, but we try to kind of lead by example in that sense to do it because we know that's what we did. So I think from that sense, I think it puts you in a position of leadership, right? Naturally, whether you want to be it or not. You know what I'm saying? Some people have leadership traits and qualities about them, but I think with being a father, I think just it puts you, I say all the time, always look to be a leader or a captain, right? Because when you do that, you kind of put yourself in a position to try to of excellence daily. That's just how it makes me, makes me feel, make me try to do that.
So when you say you can remember when you were their age, do you feel like you mimic your parenting style from your parents? Or
It's
what do you
funny
think
because
your biggest influence from being a father?
no, it's funny you say that because we all have pieces of my mom and our dads, right? I think I look at parenting like coaching. Like I've had some great coaches along the way, right? And I've had some bad coaches, right? I take the good coaching, right? Same thing I would with parenting. And then I take out the bad part, but I also add on what I wish I would have had.
Yeah. So just to follow up on something you said, when you talked about, you want to be the parent that you wish that you had, right?
Yeah.
How do you navigate being the parent that you wish that you had to actually being like the parent that your kids need? Because that's something that I struggle with, right? Because I try my best to be everything that I never had, but I realize some of that isn't they don't want. Like I wanted a dad to like maybe play ball and all this other stuff, but like my son don't really give a fuck about that. So it's like I wanted to give him all of that, but where do you take in like what they want and how do you get that out of them?
I I don't think it's what they want. They're kids, right? So it's like
True.
kids don't have a choice, right? My dad used to tell me, you ain't got a choice until you have a choice. And by the time you have a choice, you be thankful you didn't have a choice. So I think it goes back to when I say that, giving them some things that you didn't have. Maybe some of the things that may didn't work out with you. I know for me, I wasn't a bad student and I wasn't an undisciplined kid. I was a good kid, right? So my parents trusted me in a sense, but so a little bit more lax on me in reference to education in that sense,
Yeah.
right? Where I could have been a lot better had they been on me a little bit more. But I was able to gain their trust based off my behavior. So it wasn't that I don't look at it as a negative. I'm just saying that's something I'm mindful of
Right.
as a parent when I'm saying that thing. And that's just to give an example. So I don't think it's something that you just kind of going out trying to just find. It organically happens, right? Where it's like, oh shoot, damn, that happened to me. Man, I would have did it this way differently when this happened. You know what I mean? So circumstances happen that remind you of back to your childhood or the age your child was, and you just kind of act accordingly.
Okay. And so now you have older children, right?
Yeah.
So now you can vividly remember what it's like to be a teenager.
Yeah.
But you're in a very, very unique situation because your children are not growing up the same way you grew up.
No.
And I mean, from the aspect of just from an athletic standpoint,
Yeah.
you work with, you know, top flight athletes,
Hmm.
elite, and then you have your children who are athletes as well. Do
Hmm.
you think that they got any extra pressure put on them based upon who you work with and who you are?
No, I don't think it's pressure. I just think they know that they got to work. They have to work. You know what I mean? There's no pressure for any of the people that I've trained. You got to remember, most of the guys and these athletes that I've trained were once them. So what pressure was on them? It goes back to I always tell my kids, whatever you want to do, doesn't matter. You still gonna have to work for it. I think to your point in reference to I could never simulate my upbringing, right? I'm learning that
Yeah.
even through training these kids, right? We can't simulate how we was brought up. I spoke about this before in another podcast where I talk about there's no baby that's born tough. There's no mom that holds a baby and be like, he's gonna be so tough. So, okay, where you get your toughness from? You got your toughness from your community, your mom, your aunt, your uncles, your grandparents, the things you were exposed to seeing, right? Maybe some things you had to go through that gave you the grit and the perseverance. You have to be lucky and blessed enough to go through those things and then make it out the other side to use those things. Some people don't. So it's like, okay, my kids will never go through, I can't simulate my upbringing, right? But what I won't do is I'm not going to compromise foundational principles that I was raised on that still work today, regardless of technology and social media and all this stuff. So like, I think that's important. Like even with this gym now, right? With training, we joke, we joke about it as trainers in here. You know what this is, where we train? A safe neighborhood. We the
Mm,
OGs in the neighborhood, right? It was OGs when I was growing. It was dudes that sold drugs. It was dudes that could fight. It was dudes that was tough. It was dudes that was athletes. You had to choose who you kind of wanted to follow because you looked up to all of them because they were older, right?
yeah.
So the good thing now is everything is positive that they looking up to and here. The only difference is now I'm simulating what will happen outside. You will be
Yeah.
outside.
Exactly.
You will be outside with different kids. Some kids got dads, some kids don't. Some kids economic differences and hardships. All right. Backgrounds, ethnicities, athletic prowess, ability. Some kids not as good, some kids very good. Some kids better than the goods that the kids that are great, right? So you're around all of this, but you learn to appreciate everything. And you then you have an opportunity to self-observation to learn from everyone. You know what I mean? Everyone that's a part of it. So it's like, that's what my kids get a chance to see. You know what I mean? So it's not just me, it's the village. Oh, and I tell
Yeah.
people, man, this gym is a blessing in many ways, not just because of the health and wellness piece and the equipment and how nice it is, man. It's a lot of growth in here. It's a lot of real development taking place in here that you can't put a price tag on. I'm just blessed enough to have my kids to be around it and be around other positive people too. You know what I mean? Everybody speak to that village, but everybody ain't got no village. It takes It takes a village. That don't mean you got one.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's so true. Everybody, it takes a village. Well, what the hell is it?
Yeah.
How you, yeah,
Right.
like they say the saying, then give it to you. Like, no, it
Yeah.
don't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And so another thing that so let me ask you this. Do you notice or you see a difference because you train kids as well? Are you able to kind of see and tell a kid that has a dad in the house and a dad that doesn't? And
Yeah.
what are the subtle differences that you may notice?
You know what's odd now? It was a time frame where I was training. It was like this era where there was a lot more mothers, right? For age group gap than it was fathers that I had met. Now, I don't mean that they weren't there, right? I'm just saying I was meeting a lot
That
more
they
mothers
yeah,
that were trying to put their sons in the best situation, opportunity around the right people, right? And then I want to
mhm,
say, I want to say recently, just in recent times, I'm gonna speak. I don't know when it quite started, but I'm seeing more fathers. I'm seeing more fathers be involved, right? And the only thing though I'm seeing is that the dads are involved, but they may not understand because maybe they weren't athletes, or maybe they didn't go to a certain level, right?
they don't know shit.
I love the fact they supporting their kids, right? So there's a boundary that's there. So they may bring them in and I'm coaching them, and then they got something to say on the side, right? Where it's like, hold on, you brought them to me, you dad, be dad, right? So like I see a lot of that. Also, I have more dads coming up to me now asking me or saying, maybe you could, hey, he'll listen to you, maybe you can get through to him, right? And I understand, right? Messaging can come across from different people and be accepted for different ways, right? But then I had to think, I'm like, damn, why your kids not listening to you? Why would they listen to somebody they just met? You the dad. So then I would think, these kids get to a certain age, and I realized too that even though they're parents, these kids can lose a certain level of respect for your parent when you're constantly telling them, do this,
Wrong
do
information.
that. Everything sounds the same from get your clothes up, get the dishes, do your homework to
Mhm.
you critiquing them in sports or what they doing in a drill. And it's like after a while, they be like, hold up, you ain't doing none of this. You ain't working out. You ain't, you know what I mean? How far did you play? Right. And it's not being disrespectful. It's just it be you get to an age where they notice things like, wait a minute, right? Because even as parents, kids will not take testimonial or will not take advice from people, even though they're parents, if they don't have a testimony behind it.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
your parent can't show you, look, this what I did, this how I did it, I'm telling you this what to do, you won't be like, man, I ain't doing that. So
Yeah.
I see that now. You know what I mean? I think it's good to see, but again, parent is hard, man. You know what I'm saying? It ain't easy, right? And there's ain't no book to it.
It's
Ain't no
nothing to
book to it. And guess what? If you got more than one kid, every kid different.
God, it's completely different.
So
Completely different. If you got different genders, you got that's a whole nother world too.
exactly.
Whole
Facts.
nother world.
Facts.
So let me ask you this. Now, you also coach your kids though. How did
Yes.
you keep that balance between coach and dad?
I think for me, the uniqueness of my ability to coach my kids in the sports and my sons mostly. I didn't coach my daughters in any sport, right? But I was able to separate it, I think, because of the profession I'm in. It wasn't like I was working this 9 to 5 job. I always had experience in coaching and teaching and developing and nurturing and paying attention to people and energy, right? So where a lot of coaches are parents who got jobs and they come to practice. You don't have the
Yeah.
skill set. You don't have the skill set to deal with those things because you haven't had the time to do it. Now, your heart is in the right place to coach your kid. And then what
Right.
happens is if you're a coach and your child makes a mistake, you end up looking like you're coaching your kid and not everybody else because you feel like it's an embarrassment for you. He's the coach's kid. He ain't supposed to make no mistakes. But it's like you
Yeah.
didn't
That's
coach.
the
You
ego
wouldn't
thing.
you wouldn't say that to this kid who made a mistake. Same way. So, and I've had
Mhm.
coaches come up to me and even parents, people who know me, if they came to a practice or you wouldn't know who was my child. You know what I mean? At no point, you wouldn't know Mason or Chase was my child. And even the head coach of Paint Branch, he used to tell me, he told me that all the time. He said, bro, I coach with you and I would never know that those were your children. So, again, I'm blessed with that gift to be able to do that. I know it's hard for a lot of parents, but
Yeah.
at the same token, understand it, but I also learned from my father too, right? When sports was over, when it's over, I don't talk about it. You know what I mean? I'm not getting in the car talking about the game or plays that should have been called or you should have been getting more playing time. It's not the conversation. The conversation is, hey, what we gonna do to get better? You know,
Yeah.
so and then just being dad. You know what I mean? So I think separating that is important.
Yeah. I don't see. I coached my son in like flag. I don't think I can coach my son. I know. I know. I would get too. My temperament would be too much because I can tolerate. Like you said, it's my son, right? I can tolerate someone else. I can't tolerate laziness in my house and then act like you didn't do it. I know you ain't been doing nothing for the past 2 hours, and now you want to come in here and act like you all good and just want to come and eat my food in my house. Like, no, 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 I'm good. I can't. That's why I'd rather just keep the separation. But
Well,
I,
that's
I get
good.
it. I can.
It's good that you know that though
I,
about yourself. But not
yeah,
every
yeah,
parent, not every parent that coach recognize that about himself. Like there ain't
yeah,
too many parents that's going to verbally self-critique themselves to other people to say they not good at
yeah.
something. Coaches included. How many coaches have you ever heard say, "Man, I'm awful at calling plays. I really don't know what I'm doing. I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to drills." Right?
Right,
No one's
right.
going to admit to that, right? And that's a part of parenting too, right? Parents never want to show vulnerability to their children, especially fathers.
Yeah,
Vulnerability is important at times because it shows that you can make mistakes too. It's just like you getting on your son about something, but it's like who gets on you? Because you make mistakes too.
yeah,
You have to be
yeah,
open enough to be able to take critique from them sometimes. Once they get to a certain age, you be like, "Hey, Dad, you told me you was trying to lose weight. Yeah, you ain't eating the foods you said you was gonna eat. You said you was gonna
yeah. Right.
you said you was gonna do cardio. I thought you was gonna do cardio. What happened? What's going on? You ain't waking up at 6 like you said." So, you
Yeah,
have to be able to accept you gotta be able to accept that they have accountability to kids too, even though they kids,
yeah,
right? Because you said you was gonna do
yeah.
something you ain't doing. No different towards them.
It's totally true.
Yeah.
That's totally yeah. Like, but that's what I told my son. I said, look, bro, I got videos. That's all you're gonna get from me. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, bro, by the time he's a teenager, like I got mine, I dunked the basketball at 37 years old at 5'8". I ain't did it since, and I'm probably never gonna do it again. But I
Mhm.
got it on videotape. Like, look, in about 10 years, you still probably, if you can do it, good. Just
Right,
imagine what I really was.
right.
But I'm not doing it now. I let it go. I can't. So let me ask you this. I know I'm not one of those, but what do you do when you see these parents that try to live vicariously through their children? Because I'm okay with whatever I did athletically. I don't care. But
Yeah,
there's a lot of parents that we see that you know, I could have made it to the next level. It's just that I hurt my knee. Like, no, no, you just weren't good enough.
right,
But you're gonna put all this pressure on your child.
right.
Like, what? How do you see it for that?
I mean, when the parents that I talk to, I have a relationship with them because if I'm training their kids, right? So it's also a way on how you communicate to those parents and letting them know what they're doing and how it's affecting their child. You know what I mean? Because I'm seeing it from a different lens. So it's how you're able to articulate and explain to them, what that sounds like, what that looks like, what we don't need, what we need from you, what I need from you more of than what you're giving me right now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
a lot of parents will take accountability in that sense because, you know, yeah, I've done it for so long, but I've also had this lens where I'm training kids from ages 5 all the way up to NFL, NBA players. So you got this wide lens of development. And like you said,
Yeah.
the the mental, physical, you see the growth. So you know each stage that each is going through and what parenting is like at each stage. So what the athlete is going through and what the parent is going through at that age, I can relate to each parent at every level.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. And so while you're doing so many great things throughout just your own children and the other children that you coach,
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask get you out of here with this one question that we always end with. What would you want your legacy as a father to be?
I just hope my legacy is, my kid taking again all the good things that they learn from me, right? I think it's hard, you know, for people that are entrepreneurs and parenting when you talk about, I don't never looked into legacy for my children. You know what I'm saying? I never thought about like what legacy I'm leaving for them. Right? I just feel like, am I giving them enough so when I'm gone, they got enough to stand and be true to themselves and then be good to other people, right? So it's like you can only leave that precedence by doing it yourself. Think your legacy ends up being a part of your living, to be honest with you. So there's no thought process into what my legacy is or what I want them to hold on to with it. There's some things I know that I had to recognize with with my kids and these other people, especially like people in entrepreneurship world or even coaches that coach college football, high level people that have to have a balance of a certain selfishness. People
Yeah.
talk about, trying to be great at what you do. There's a certain selfishness that comes with that. And then with parenting, there comes a certain selflessness too, right? And it's hard to find that balance, right? And when you're trying to find that balance as a parent, you think you're doing right, your kids may say, they may think in their mind, my dad ain't there for me. But you may
Yeah.
think you're doing everything,
Everything to be there.
right? Or
To
or
make
try,
sure that you
especially
can do what you gotta. Yeah.
especially in my case, right? Because I got 4 kids, and it was certain ages before they were going to high school where all of them were doing different activities. Some at the same time, some at different times and areas, right? Where you have this schedule where you got to work and make money to feed the family, but then you got to go support them. Okay, how are we finagling and maneuvering the schedule? Who's going to what? And you know,
Hmm.
them not knowing that. Okay, I feel bad not being able to make all the games, but I'm not telling them that, but I'm trying to make the games that I can and then hoping
Yeah.
they understand. And they may not. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised unless you have those conversations with your kids because I've seen it with other parents that also have that not entrepreneurs but coaches, right? Where kid they think that my dad was there for me. The dad was there the whole time. It's like that Bobby Womack sign. I can't be at 2 places at one time,
Yeah.
right? I can't feed you, take care of you if I don't do this. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I want to support you. But you got to understand what I'm dealing with. And the parent that has a job that goes in and he goes in from 9, he gets off at 5, and he's able to attend that practice at 6 and then go to every game that you have because he doesn't work on the weekend. And he's not helping a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah.
It goes both ways, right? So again, I think you can be present or you can be in present, right? So, you know, we all kind of fall short sometimes in certain areas with that. I think, you know what I mean? I know I do. I'm not perfect and probably it may look like shoot, I'm putting into more people's kids than my own. It may look like that. So I got to be very careful and communicating to my kids on how they really feel and where they are in this space. I'm trying and working, doing a better job of that than I've probably done in the past because nothing comes before them. I don't want them to ever think anybody or anything comes before them. So, it just so happened, you know, God blessed me with the gift and the passion to help a bunch of people and still help them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He would have never put me in this position if he didn't think I could handle it. Or I wouldn't be here talking to you now. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, at the end of the day, I think I think legacy wise, again, just not going off your first question. I think your legacy is your life you living, man.
Yeah.
Simple as
I
that.
mean, you're constantly building your legacy every day.
Every day.
You know what I mean? So that's totally
Every day.
understandable. And I think that part is kind of lost. And I talked about it from, a single dad standpoint of not like being in the house and at times. And I know I said that was the last question, but I just wanted to piggyback over something you were just talking about. How, when I'm not in the house, or it may seem like all they doing is having fun, right? Or for you, like when it's athletes or coaches or anything, it's like all I care about is my job, but they don't really understand the other side that emotionally you still feel and like you question yourself about those times. Like, 'cause I do the same when I work.
Hmm.
And I posted on my timeline, I'm at 4 o'clock, I'm at midnight. It's the same thing. You'll see me working,
Yeah.
but I don't want it to get lost in all of that. That while all of this is happening, I want you to know that you're on my mind.
All right. All right. I
Like
think that's it.
that children are on
Yeah.
my mind, and that it might not show in the forefront to everyone or all the time, but you're the most important thing to me.
Hmm.
Like the reason why I'm doing this, it might not seem like it to the outside, but I want to make sure that my children know that the reason why any and all of this is for you to reap the benefits of it all.
Yeah.
Because while I'm here to help everybody else, at the end of the day, the most important people I care about got the same blood as me.
Yeah.
And I treat it and like that part, I think the feelings that we have to go through with dealing with that gets lost because they just see us, or they just see you just working. Like we understand the sacrifices that it makes,
Yeah.
and it takes a toll. And the fact that you were able to reflect and understand that right away, like that's good. That type of recollection doesn't always come though.
Right.
It's good to have that. That's extremely good to have that.
I think I'm trying to do a better job of having the real conversations that our parents may have hid from us, right? Finding it being
Yeah.
okay to have these conversations with them because they need to know certain things because and there's certain things they don't need to know, right? Because it's not like they're gonna help you to be able to do anything, right? Our parents never
Right.
talked about finances with us, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if you're constantly you're asking for money and you can't put a understanding on what a value of a dollar is. Well, let me put things in perspective for you on what's going on here at my job
Yeah.
and where money's going so you can get a understanding of stop asking me so much for this because then you'll understand why you may not get it. Right. So just little stuff like that. You know what I mean? I think for me, things changed a little bit for me too, because when I was training and I was contracting out of gyms, when you're doing that, it's just really you and really you
Yeah.
training, right? And making money and doing what you like, enjoy doing and taking care of your family, right? And then now, being co-founder and co-owner of a full fitness and performance facility while also training where you had to wait 30 years to do it is a different change, right? So now it's more employees. We got more overhead, more things to worry about, right? So it's not, I don't want to say it's pressure. It's not pressure because, we train for it, but it's different. And there's a different
Yeah.
responsibility. Guess what? Now those employees and people who work here, their families now, right, are important and just like yours. So I always say I want the people that work or I work with, is we not me, first of all. And they're a part of the business. They don't work for the business. So, you know,
Yeah.
understanding that the change now, for my kids, right? They're older now, so they're a little bit more mature to kind of understand that. But just really still making sure like I'm 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 doing a good job with
Yeah.
my communication, doing a better job with my communication and not taking anything for granted and vice versa for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, man, if you want to plug the gym, plug your socials, everything, go ahead.
Yes, we Domain Fitness Performance. We're in Burtonsville, Maryland. The website is domainfitnessmd.com. We are a fusion of fitness and sports performance. So we like to say we're kind of one of a kind facility. We're super diverse, community based, lifestyle development programming where everyone from youth to sedentary senior to fitness enthusiasts all the way up to NFL, NBA, professional athlete clients can train here and work out, and everyone feels comfortable, man. It's just a blessing to be able to have a vision and then see it come into fruition and then see the people actually in here doing it and what you dream and vision, the diversity and the different ethnicities, race and backgrounds and everyone's vibing and having a good time and growing and not batting an eye or being judged or insecurities or intimidation at all in the space. So,
Yeah.
I just wish everyone could get an opportunity to kind of feel that, what that feels like. And then again, operating around good people. So we're here. Our Instagram is Domain Fit on Instagram, and my IG is Myron Flowers, Myron, last name Flowers. You can hit me up. I'm who I am in real life, who I am on social media. So, you know, that's what you see, what you gonna get.
Hey, man, love it, man. And let me say, that gym shits on the dungeon. I would just put that out there really quick.
Yeah, we a
It shits on the dungeon.
long way from the dungeon, man.
Long way from the dungeon, man. And
Yeah.
I like I said, I appreciate this. This is overdue, and I would never guess that this would have happened, and it turned out even better than I
But guess
imagined.
what
So
though,
I
man?
appreciate your time.
I appreciate the dungeon. You understand? Because
Yeah,
without the dungeon,
yeah.
I'm not here. You know what I'm saying? You gotta go
Under the-
through all of these steps. You know what I mean? And it's still work to be done. So I'm just thankful, man, and blessed that to be able to be doing it as long as I have, and then still at this point not be tired but energized to even go forward with this. You know what I mean? A lot of
yeah.
people can get to this point
Like
like, ah,
you're gonna keep going.
right.
You're gonna keep going because you're helping a lot of people, and you're actually walking in your purpose. And when you're
Yeah.
doing that, there's no limit to where you can go, man.
Man, I
So
appreciate you, man.
appreciate it. Episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. I know you like what you saw. So what I need for you to do is go back and look at past episodes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share our YouTube page, Just My Baby Daddy Podcast. And you can follow us on all social media at Just My Baby Daddy Pod.